All right, we've got Rudolf Stember, Rudy Stember, and Chris Hülsbeck. Chris is music director, and Rudy is the sound effects guy, or the sound designer, as we call it in movies and games nowadays. So let's start with you. What's the challenge about making sound effects for a game?
You mean specifically Rogue 2 or any game
Maybe
at all?
in general, and then the specific problems for Rogue 2.
In general, it's always a memory problem. People don't have enough memory to store all the sound effects the sound designer wants to do. Normally, in cartridge games it was very nice because with all the ROM you can blow up with all the sound effects, but nowadays with GameCube everything is very small.
You're probably the first person ever to complain about this compared to cartridge. But in terms of small, I mean, how many sound effects does Rogue Leader, for example, have?
That's a tricky question because we're using musics, of course, and using that, the real sound effect count you have on the programmer side, which they can call, is about 490 or something, 500 sound effects. But on the other side, if you just go into a cockpit, you have a lot of sound effects going on. If you go into the cockpit, you have having a stereo sample going on, you have beeps and clicks going on all the time, and other things. So the real count of sound effects, which are running at the same time, are about 800, 900.
Yeah. And basically, how are they created? Are you getting the sound effects material from Lucasfilm guys who did them for the movies, or how does it work?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Over the years we did a lot of Star Wars games, so I have my own library with sound effects from the movies, and if I need something specifically I have to ask over at LucasArts, and it takes a long time to get stuff from the ranch, but back to Rebel Assault 2 days, we got a lot of sound effects then, and I'm still using them, then requesting new ones. Yeah, it's really fun now watching the game having the sound effects all redone. If you listen to the sound effects you get from the ranch, it sounds like the 70s, right? It's very low on high frequencies and very low dynamics, and they need some work. And if you do sound effects for the movies, if they remaster the movies, they did remaster to the whole tracks. But now we have the opportunity to remaster every single sound effect to make it sound right and then make a new mix.
Yeah.
So,
all right, we're playing the asteroid field here. So what was the specific problem about the asteroid field and the TIEs in there?
yeah, coming from Rogue One, where we had just 2 TIE fighters flying at the same time, audio-wise, and there were more, but you couldn't hear just 2. Now in Rogue Leader we have a maximum of 8 at the same time you can hear, which gets new problems for you, which is if you hear 8 TIE fighters at the same time, yeah, you definitely have some distortion going on, and you really need to mix that down and get that under control, what's going on. This is a completely different problem than we had in other console games before, because
the graphics can display so much.
Yes,
we have a much bigger problem.
I mean, in Rogue One we had a maximum wave of 7 TIE fighters going on, you hear 2, and now we have, what, 50, 60,000, I don't know. Yeah, in Rogue One we had 7 voices for some effects.
Yeah, which means you have to, getting the balance for every level is much harder.
It's much harder, it's much more work. It's not harder, it's much more work. It's like you're having a mixing console with 400 faders and you need to control everything and have everything in the same volume range going on.
Yeah.
And back in Rogue One we had about 119 sound effects, and it's nothing compared to games nowadays.
Yeah. To my right I've got Chris Hülsbeck, who's the music director on the project, which in this case meant what, Chris?
Well, I had the difficult task to find a way to do all the music cues, like the parts of the soundtrack that we stream, and there are other parts that have to be MIDI.
Stream means original stuff which Williams recorded with the orchestra, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and MIDI means
MIDI always
the sound chip.
Yeah.
The sound chip sound. Yeah.
Exactly. MIDI sounds always so bad, but we could call it like real-time rendered audio, which sounds already better. And, yeah, it was not that easy to find a way that it doesn't sound that different between the to. And
I mean,
I spent a lot of time on the sound set to make it sound really, really good in terms of orchestra emulation.
So basically, what are you doing? Because obviously Williams had 300 people sitting there. So his pieces, when you look at the Battle of Hoth, you hear his pieces playing, and it's obviously the orchestra. So then you, as soon as the player hears an original piece, which isn't on the soundtracks, it's GameCube sound chip doing it, right? So
Exactly.
What did you have to create for that? So where's your orchestra sitting?
Well, it's just it comes down to a lot of work on the different instrument samples to make them sound bigger. So we have ensemble instruments that are already like sounding like a couple of trumpets or string ensembles and stuff like that, and so you can create the illusion there's more playing than what is actually playing in terms of voices. And then we have also this very good reverb that is also doing its part, and overall it sounds pretty convincing.
How does the whole interactive music thing work? Because I mean, you've got, when you're flying into the level, you've got one piece playing, then the music seems to change. What's the concept behind that?
Well, there's we have like ranges that we can define in the levels, areas that have a specific theme, and it's also tied to the gameplay, if there's something going on in that area or not. And it basically fades the pieces over, and it's really interesting because sometimes you're not realizing that it goes from a soundtrack stream to a MIDI piece, and it does a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The original compositions were done by you and Jake Jacobson in LA, right? How close are you guys sticking to Williams there?
Well, we always try to keep it in the same kind of style, and sometimes it's really difficult because Williams is such a great composer, and a game is somewhat different from the movie soundtrack. I mean, you don't have this total linear way of predicting what's happening, so it's sometimes difficult, but I think we did a pretty good job, and it doesn't sound too different.